Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. And oh, by the way, if you're wondering what that bit of text was that just flashed by, that's the small print, well worth reading. We're up to version 5 now, by the way. Anyway, your pausing skills have got to be up to snuff to watch that. Anyway, welcome back to Bike News. It's November already, or the end of November. We're well into winter now. I've got 5 copies of MCN to go through, loads of stuff to talk to you about because it's that time of the year when we've had the bike shows and stuff, so lots of new models to go through. So settle back, grab yourself a brew, let's crack on with Bike News. Alrighty, first story in the first paper then here. And this is Prepare to be Dazzled. It's a Transalp story. I often get accused of talking about Transalps too much, but I cover the bikes I like here on Bike News. I happen to like Transalps, okay. Prepare to be Dazzled is the story here. Transalp are bedazzling the bobber and sprucing up the Scrambler with a run of chrome editions. See what you did there, Journos, nice one. Inspired by the chrome tanks of the 1937 Speed Twin and the 1960s Tritons, the collection spans 10 models and will be available for 1 year only. They're available, they're going to reach customers later this year and into the early part of 2023. Prices range from $8,945 for the Speed Twin 900 up to $22,200 for the Rocket 3 GT. So this is going back a month now. I'm sure you saw these pictures all over social media, these incredible new Transalps with chromed tanks. I think they do look amazing. I did just wonder when I saw them though what they're going to be like in terms of the durability of the finish of them. If you love polishing your bike, then this is the way to go. I assume they've got proper coatings on them and so on, so they don't scratch easily, but I do wonder if buttons on your trousers and on your jeans might scratch them, and how hard they're going to be to look after. They look great. I'm really pleased that Transalp now is knocking out some different colours and different paint schemes on their models. I've often criticised them in the past for not doing that, so thumbs up for these. I think they look brilliant, and yeah, probably worth the small premium that they're charging to get the chrome models, but they're only available for a year, so snap them up quick if you're interested to see what you think of those in the comments below as usual. All right, next story. Hackney ignore protest. Now, do you remember in a Bike News a few months back now, we talked about the fact that some councils in London were pressing on with or trying to put charges on for parking motorcycles in their boroughs, and there's lots of protests and things like that. Well, it looks like Hackney are ignoring the process. It says here, despite a 7,500 signature petition, which is quite a lot, isn't it, when you think motorcycling, a protest ride and face-to-face meeting with the campaigners, Hackney Council is still proposing the introduction of parking charges for motorcycles and scooters. This is outrageous. Hackney is still clinging to the claim that the decision is based on reducing air pollution and congestion. A council spokesman, who's nameless, said, we are committed to improving local air quality and tackling the climate emergency. As part of this commitment, Cabinet agreed in February 2021 to place motorcycles on the same footing as all other vehicles, with permit prices based solely on the emissions they produce. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. To say that, making motorcycles pay, so giving less incentive to ride motorcycles is helping the climate emergency is just ridiculous. Motorcycles, powered two-wheelers in the city, electric bikes, these are the things that are going to help with climate change, aren't they? Absolutely unbelievable. To me, it just smacks of a council that's actually into a money-making scheme, hidden under some sort of bogus environmental claims. I just think Hackney are wrong there. That's outrageous. Again, let me know what you think to that one. So that one's annoying. It's put me in an eggy mood now. Right, next up. E-bike throttle goes both ways. Now, what do you make to this bike here? I think it looks absolutely incredible. It's an electric bike. It reminds me very much of the Maving. Do you remember that? The Coventry-made bike. In fact, I've just ridden one of those. There'll be some videos coming up on the Maving early in the new year. But this one is from another company, and it's quite different because it's got a throttle that works quite interestingly. Let me read. It says here, twisting the grip one way to go faster and closing it to slow down might sound obvious, but Swedish firms RGNT's One Throttle Drive, or OTD for short, takes that a step further by dialing in regen braking as you shut the throttle. The idea is that by using regenerative braking to slows you down more efficiently. And we've come across regen braking before, haven't we, on other electric bikes. Seldom on bikes of this sort of size, though. The big, expensive, the Zero DSRs, things like that we've certainly seen it on, but not necessarily the ones at the more budget end of the market. It says here, the SE is available in either the classic Cafe Racer styling or a Scrambler version. Both are started with keyless ignition, weighing in at 161 kilograms. The models share the same dimensions with an 810mm seat height. Prices for the SE start at €13,495, so £11,750. So it is still quite expensive, it has to be said. Don't know what the power output is on this. As I say, it reminds me of the Maving in that it's sort of a retro-looking electric bike. But this one, I think, is probably a little bit heavier, maybe a little bit faster. It's certainly more expensive. The Maving's about 7 grand. This is coming in at nearly 12. So still an expensive bike. So, you know, not budget, but interesting that it's got that twist grip that you roll off and it slows the bike down because of regen. On the Maving, there is no regen. That's one of the big differences. Anyway, makes complete sense. If you're going to go down the electric bike route, then I think regenerative braking is the way to go. Why not? Okay, we go shopping for adventure. Now, this is an interesting review. MCN often do these big group reviews, don't they? And here's an adventure bike one, which is great. The difference here is the guy doing the review, actually Michael Guy, he's actually going to buy the bike that he decides that he's going to go for at the end of it. So it's an interesting review here. So they've got the Aprilia Tuareg, the Yamaha Tenere 700, Honda CRF 300 Rally, AJP PR7 and the KTM 690 Enduro R. Out of all these, the only bike I've actually ridden is the Honda CRF 300 Rally, which I love. This sort of bike doesn't really appeal to me too much. The sort of upright Dakar-esque stance of these middleweight off-roaders isn't really my thing. Michael Guy very much is an off-road expert though, and I can entirely see why he'd want to go for one of these rather than a big, one of the big adventure bikes, a KTM Adventure or GS or whatever, because of their weight. These are much more suited for properly going off-road. Anyway, let's see what Michael Guy chose, shall we? It says here, it could be the adventure bike I've always dreamt of. Picking the best bike out of these 5 offerings has never been so critical, given that I'll actually be buying the winning motorcycle. There are no bad bikes here, Michael says. Choosing between the AJP and the KTM is not easy. Priced almost identically, the AJP is close to being the perfect adventure bike out of the crate. Ultimately, though, no bike here fits my exact wish list. As standard, the AJP is the closest, but after much debate, the winner of the test and the bike I will buy is the KTM. Whenever you ride it, it puts a smile on your face like no other on this test. It could become the adventure bike I've always dreamed of, and I think I've seen elsewhere where Michael Guy has bought one of these now and is making a few mods to make it his own. So he went for the KTM out of that batch, which was quite interesting. I thought he might have gone for one of the newer looking, more Dakar-esque bikes. I think just for the Tenere and the Tuareg were the ones that I thought we'd go for. So there we go, went for the Enduro R. Anyway, interesting test, I thought that. An interesting twist on the way that they do tests in MCN. All right, next paper, first story. Cruising for a bruising. Now this is a beautiful looking Ducati, isn't it? This is the Diavel, now with the V4 engine. I suppose not a big surprise that Ducati went this way, given they did it with the Multistrada and the Panigale, of course. So it was only a matter of time before they got to the Diavel. So this is the 2023 model. It's got the V4, of course. A few subtle changes to the styling, notably things like the mirrors and the indicators. The indicators used to be sort of built into the sides, didn't they, of the bike? Now they're actually proper indicators at the top on stalks, which I don't think they look like Brian the Snail's antenna. They don't look quite so integrated. I think I preferred the old ones. What I do like is the new exhaust treatment. It's got these 4 pipes now coming out. I think it's probably 4 into 1 back into 4, but it goes via the big Euro 5 collector box. But it does look cool, and apparently in the flesh they look even better than in the pictures, and in the pictures it looks pretty cool. Anyway, it says here, Ducati's Diavel muscle cruiser has become the latest in a line of models from Bologna to ditch its traditional V-twin in favour of a liquid-cooled V4. The aptly named Diavel V4 will arrive in January in a choice of red or black. The red one's 23,595, the black 23,895, so a bit more expensive for the black. It boasts a claimed 166.3 brake horsepower. It's 13 kilograms lighter than the outgoing 1260S, which is interesting, isn't it? How have they managed that? Like the recently revealed Multistrada V4 Rally, the Diavel also gets rear cylinder deactivation to improve efficiency. That's very clever tech, that, isn't it? It's when you're on the motorway cruising at constant speed, it'll deactivate the rear cylinders to save fuel and also a bit of heat around the bum area, I guess. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, so it says here it becomes a parallel twin at standstill and at low speed. You'll know just how many cylinders are firing thanks to a change in engine tone, with a deeper sound escaping from the new 4X exhaust when running on 2, and a higher pitch emitted when all 4 are on song. So you'd have a bit of fun riding this, trying to guess whether all 4 cylinders were firing, wouldn't you? But beautiful looking bike. I love the way the Diavel looks. I've never actually been a massive fan of the way it rides, actually, but I haven't ridden the standard Diavel for a little while. Maybe I should have a little chat to Ducati again and see if I can get a V4 in the summer, just to see how this one goes. It absolutely looks epic. I would love a go on it, so maybe that's one for the summer. All right, next up, farewell old friend. This is a bit of a sad story. Euro 5 regs forced Suzuki to call time on the GSXR 1000, would you believe? This is a shocker. Let me read what it says. Suzuki has confirmed to MCN that the GSXR 1000 will be discontinued in Europe. What a choker. There are a very limited number of these left, as the current GSXR 1000R does not meet Euro 5 emissions regulations. These will be the last models on sale in the UK. What a shame of this generation of GSXR 1000. First introduced in 2001, the GSXR 1000R will remain part of the official model lineup next year as the final bikes are sold. So if you do fancy a GSXR 1000, snap one up quick. If there's one in stock in your local Suzuki showroom, that's the one to have, because there's no more coming along. That really is the end of an era, isn't it? What a shame. The implication kind of is here that it might come back in future, but I wouldn't hold your breath. So if you are a big GSXR fan, now's the time to grab one. Isn't that a shame? You know, definitely an iconic bike. Shame to see them go like that. Right, next story here. What do we think of this? Mack Double Up. Brit firm introduces second single-cylinder model ahead of NEC public debut. Oh yeah, it was the NEC show, of course, last week. I didn't go this year. Lots of people asked me if I was going. I've been to the last 10 on the trot, although obviously there wasn't shows when COVID was on. So I just thought this year I'd give it a miss, because there weren't particularly any bikes I particularly wanted to see. But from people that did go, I've spoken to, they said it was a very good show and it seemed quite busy. So that's great news. I'll probably go along next year with Mrs. Fly for a look round, if nothing else. But if you went to the NEC, how did you find it? How did it compare to last year? I thought last year's was a little bit quiet. I think people were still a little bit afraid of the COVID thing last year. But anyway, here it was a good show. Anyway, I digress. Back to this bike. British bike firm Mack Motorcycles have revealed the Rex ahead of its public debut at this year's Motorcycle Live show. Of course, this paper was out 3 weeks ago, so it's pre the show. The same tubular steel backbone frame as the SWM produced 600cc. Oh, hang on. The upright machine shares the same tubular steel backbone frame. Oh, this is the second bike they've produced. It's the same as you follow. Hopefully you follow. Right. Anyway, and it has the same motor and ancillaries as Mack's Ruby Cafe Racer. That's the previous bike. It will be great to get people's reaction of it, said co-founder Ian Oliver. It's got a claimed 52 brake horsepower. Bikes will be assembled in Britain, it says here, so we don't know where they're actually made. That's a question mark. Does remind me a bit of the looks a bit like a CCM, doesn't it? And the engine on here, what's that from? Claim 52 brake horsepower. It says SWM produced 600cc motor. I do like the looks of it, I must say, but I just wonder whether it's going to be a bit of a thumper in terms of, a bit vibey when you're riding it. And also, it's got, if you look at the clock here, it looks very nice, but it says don't get too excited. Those are kilometres per hour markings, so I hope you don't just get kph markings rather than miles an hour, particularly on a British-built bike. But it does look nice. What do you think? No prices here yet, of course. I imagine it'll be quite expensive. I just have a bit of I love these style of bikes, these sort of hand-built, low-volume custom bikes that often are at a reasonable price, particularly in the case of the CCMs, for example. I don't know about how much this one's going to be, but I do sometimes worry about the engines being too thumpy on them. Anyway, again, interested in your view on the Mack. Right, last story in this one. The Italian proper job. It's new, but is it worth it? Now, this is a fantastic looking scooter. I love a scooter, me. And this is the latest Vespa. It's called the GTS 300. It's been ridden here by Gareth Evans. Well, let's read what it says. It's got an engine in it, which is a 278cc unit, which was introduced in 2019, apparently. Puts out 23 brake horsepower, and it'll do 81 miles an hour, would you believe? 81 on one of these is going to feel pretty fast. Those little wheels skipping over bumps could be a bit hairy, but cool looking thing. It says here, I remain convinced this bike is pretty much the perfect partner for urban riding, and I completely agree. Scooters make so much sense in town, as do electric bikes, by the way. We were talking about those earlier, but scooters particularly, because they're cheap to run, easy, nippy to get in and out of traffic. You can park them anywhere, you can stick your helmet under the seat, carry your shopping under the seat, super practical. My biggest criticism, Gareth says, is the pricing. Look through the lens of a buyer wanting cheap city transport and you won't glance twice at the Vespa in a market filled with frugal Far Eastern fare. This is a purchase that you make with a heart. Sure, rival bikes like the Honda Forza 350 and the Yamaha X-Max are great, but they're from an entirely different dimension. That is true. So this one comes in at £6,400, which probably is Forza 350 and Yamaha X-Max territory, which probably are better bikes, certainly better equipped. But look how cool this thing looks, the Vespa, amazing. So he also says here, it makes you feel great. A scooter like this, the GTS 300, might not be the cheapest option in the world, but it's among the most accessible, desirable and fun. technology, peppy performance and agreeable running costs, but most importantly it's a machine that simply makes you feel great. 6,400 quid. Again, I'm always moaning that I haven't got enough room in my garage for all the bikes I want, and if I did have unlimited space I would definitely have a scooter in the garage, and it may well be a Vespa because, you know, the original and best, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I really like the look of that. Fantastic. If you live in town, what a cool way to get about. Excellent. Blimey, second paper already, still with me. Right, 4 stories from the third paper here. First one, Suzuki's new parallel world. Impressive all-new GSX8S threatens to shake up the middle market. So we've seen a rash of new bikes in the last month because of the shows, EICMA, Milan, Motorcycle Live, of course, our own show here at the NEC. And this is one that was launched for that too. Here we go. The new naked GSX8S and the Adventure Focus V-Strom 800DE will give Suzuki fans their first all-new models for years when they arrive next spring. Offering buyers something with more performance and panache than an MT-07, but a price point and a level of tech that positions it attractively beneath the litre class protagonists. At its core is an all-new 776cc parallel twin running a 270-degree crank, and that's where I first get disappointed. There's a lot of these bikes coming out that are running on twins, I guess because the twin engine configuration is very flexible, so you can use it in adventure bike, off-road bikes, as well as street bikes. But I kind of lament that there aren't more 4-cylinder or triples coming out. We've seen a rash of these twins of late. Anyway, nothing wrong with them per se. Haven't ridden it yet, so I shouldn't draw too many conclusions until I have done. Anyway, it says here, they did experiment with a V-twin configuration apparently to continue their long legacy of success with the 650 engine, but chose a parallel twin for its flexibility and packaging benefits. There you go. I hope that doesn't imply that the SV650 is replacing it, because I love the SV650, again, a V-twin. The 8S is deliberately devoid of the most advanced electronics out there. The clear and attractive 5-inch TFT dash boasts auto and manually selectable day and night modes. There's no connectivity on offer. Thumbs up from me on that one. There are 3 basic rider modes: active, basic and comfort. Easy start, that's that thing where you press it and it starts up without having to hold on to the starter like that. Low RPM assist, again, that stops new riders stalling the bike, gives you a little bit of oomph when you pull away without having to give the throttle much. A lot of Suzuki's have that great feature, don't know why more manufacturers don't do that. And it's got a bi-directional quick shifter apparently, which is amazing. We expect it to cost circa $8,499 when it arrives in spring. What do you think of it? I mean, it looks, notwithstanding my reservations about yet another twin in the market, I think it looks quite cute. I'm not too sure about the headlights. Those 2 stacked look doesn't do it for me. I would have preferred something a little bit different, I think, at the front end. But other than that, the rest of it looks good. And I love the colour. I love the blue wheels. Looks really cool. So again, a bike that I'm looking forward to riding, particularly comparing it to the likes of the new Honda Hornet that I think we discussed last time on Bike News, didn't we? Which is a similar twin type setup and doesn't look dissimilar either. That's the problem with these bikes. They're all a bit generic, aren't they? But anyway, we'll wait and see. We'll give it a ride and go from there. All right, next up. Another new bike, return of the Transalp. Honda's rugged favourite returns as a middleweight 750cc parallel twin. Again, one of these Dakar-esque looking motorcycles. Doesn't really appeal to me, I have to say, but I know it appeals to lots of people. It says here, after endless online speculation, the Transalp has officially returned for 2023, sporting the same 755cc parallel twin, another parallel twin, as Honda's recently revealed CB750 Hornet. So same engine exactly as the Hornet, no doubt with a slightly different tune because of the different style of bike. Puts out 90.5 brake horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torque, putting it squarely in comparison with the likes of the 94 bhp BMW F850 GS for the middleweight top spot. The F850 GS, it actually feels very heavy, so I imagine this will be nicer to ride personally. A 47 brake horsepower A2 option will be available. It's got a 270-degree firing order once again to give it that grunty sound and potentially better for off-road riding. Overall, the XL tips the scales at a manageable 208 kilograms wet with a seat height of 850 millimeters, so it's quite a tall bike. Upside down forks, they're adjustable as well. 4 standard riding modes, 5-inch colour TFT, engine braking control, traction control, anti-wheelie, can be paired with your mobile, and we expect it to arrive at about £9,750. So sub 10 grand actually. Sounds like quite a lot of bike for the money. As I say, not for me on terms of looks, but I completely get that it might be a very functional bike. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Judging by how many people comment on different bikes and what they think of them, kind of drives what bikes I'm going to ride next year as well. I have a pretty good relationship with Honda. They're usually happy to lend me bikes. So if people want to see me have a go on the new Transalp, let me know and I'll get it in the diary for a ride. All right, next up, another new bike, or well, you know, a revamp of an old favourite, a very favourite in my case. This is the Triumph Street Triple. Triumph Street Racer, it says here, 13,795, a lot of money for a Street Triple. Moto 2 edition brings Grand Prix kudos to the road for 2023. So here we go, new paint scheme and some changes for this Moto 2, sorry, inspired bike. It says here, Triumph have unveiled a limited run version of the Street Triple. The Street Triple Moto 2 edition starts life as a more powerful updated version of the 765 Triple RS, which is made more special with the addition of fully adjustable Öhlins, Brembo style Lima brakes, clip-on bars, and a paint job fit for the racetrack. The 3-cylinder engine now kicks out just over 128 brake horsepower, which is a very usable number, isn't it? Sportier clip-on handlebars sit 80mm lower, 50mm further forward than the flat bars on other Street Triples. The bike went on sale last weekend. This is a couple of weeks ago now, this paper. The final round of the GP calendar, it will hit dealers in February. Apparently, cost 13,795, so quite a lot of money for a Street Triple, but it is a special. The thing with this is it's got a lovely top yoke. The yoke looks gorgeous on it. The problem for me is the fact that they put those sportier clip-on handlebars. One of the joys of the Street Triple for me was you got all the performance of the old Daytona sports bike, the lightness, the agility, the fun of that triple engine, etc., but all the comfort of an upright bike. This one is probably going to feel with clip-on bars much like a Daytona to ride, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you like that laying down stance, but for me it takes away some of the joy of what the Street Triple is about. So probably not for me, this one. I'd take one of the new paint schemes on one of the other Street Triples. But interesting that they're doing it. It's great that they're still developing the Street Triple, a fantastic bike. I owned a Street Triple in 2012 for, 8-9 years. Absolutely love that bike. I regret selling it. And maybe one day there'll be another Street Triple in my garage. I'm certainly not ruling it out. It's certainly one of my favourite bikes out there. And this looks nice. Glad they're developing it. But laying down on the bike, not for me. I'd rather have a more sit-up Street Triple. All right, last story in this paper, Team Green goes green. We have a lot of this, don't we, from Kawasaki, talking about making their bikes greener. What's been going on this time? Looks like this is a hybrid electric vehicle. So the first European preview of a new hybrid prototype, previously teased in Japan earlier this year, wearing the letters HEV, hybrid electric vehicle. The bike can switch between electric and combustion motor, and it's the first hybrid prototype from Kawasaki. It's planned to join the model range in 2024, so not far away this. Based on a parallel twin from the Ninja 250 or the recently revived Ninja 400, but also equipped with a large electric motor mounted above the gearbox. So all that to me implies, number one, it's not going to be that quick if it's either a 250 or a 400 engine, and two, it's probably going to be quite heavy if it's got an electric motor and batteries as well. It does appear to be slightly longer than the conventional petrol Ninja 400, with tweaks to the bodywork to help shroud the new technology. So yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, great that Kawasaki are going with hybrids. I'm sure I mentioned before, I'm not a massive fan of electric motorcycles so far in terms of their cost, their range, their weight, their practicality. It doesn't really work unless you're in town. In the urban environment, completely get that, go for a small light one. Like the Maving we mentioned earlier, but for a motorcycle for day-to-day use, going to work over long distances, maybe a bit of fun at the weekends and touring, they're still not there. But the hybrid might mean that it does work. If that means that you're not going to have range anxiety, if it means you can still have fun, if it means you can still buy it after 2030, I'm not sure how the regulations stand on that, then this is a good thing. So well done Kawasaki for bringing out a hybrid electric motorcycle. Alrighty, next paper. Royal Enfield's Cosmic Cruiser. Royal Enfield are banging out new models like nobody's business, aren't they, this year? So here we are, here's the latest one. Firm reveal laid-back Super Meteor 650, plus plans to expand their twin range further. Royal Enfield have added to their 650 twin range with a long-anticipated Super Meteor Cruiser model. The same air oil-cooled 648 parallel twin as the Interceptor and Continental GT, fine engine. A new tubular steel frame for a more laid-back riding position. Seat height of just 740mm, so lovely and low, very accessible. Direct competitor to Honda's popular CMX 500 Rebel. Two versions of the Super Meteor will be available, a standard trim bike and a tourer model. So here it is. Now, it looks quite nice in this view here, actually, I must say, but my problem with this is the whole joy of a cruiser for me is they have to have a big, lazy V-twin motor. So a parallel twin in one of these, not against it per se, but it's not big enough. For me, a 650, I want a big, rumbly 1000cc at least. preferably more on my cruisers. So for me, it's a thumbs down. I do quite like the looks of it on this picture, and hopefully I will have a ride of it just out of interest. I'm not really a massive cruiser fan, so we'll take a look at it. But for me, at the outset, I'm thinking I'm probably not going to like this, because I don't think it's got the things about cruisers that I like. The bits about cruisers I like are the grin factor that they put on your face, and that mainly comes from the incredibly thumpy, torquey, massive engine that sits between your legs on them. This won't have that, of course. So it remains to be seen how this one will score on the grin factor. Anyway, again, interested to see what you think on that. I might be being a bit harsh. We'll have a go on it and report back later on next year. All right, next up here, updated R1250 RS gets tech heavy. So the R1250 RS from BMW, a bike that is often overlooked, isn't it? And probably, I've said this before, it's probably the bike that most GS owners probably should buy. If you never go off-road, then the RS makes for a brilliant tourer. It's got lots of the same features as the GS, same technology, etc. It's been upgraded with even more technology now. BMW's latest R1250 RS comes with a ton of tech as standard. New Eco riding mode. It's also got Pro riding mode, which can be customised, dynamic brake control, ABS Pro are standard, heated seat optional. Comes in at 13,500 quid. So actually not bad for all that stuff as standard. I'd definitely go for the optional heated seat as well. I'm a big fan of those. Now we're in winter. I was riding yesterday with a heated seat on. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, yeah, the R1250 RS, if you're in the market for a bike, a touring bike, and you don't necessarily want to go off-road, give one of these a ride alongside a GS. You might be surprised. You might think, actually, this is the more practical bike for you, and it might be a little bit cheaper as well. Okay, next up, Fantic up their game. So this is the Caballero. They come out with a more powerful bike, a 700cc Scrambler twin. I rode the is it the 400, the original Caballero? I rode it a little while ago now. I'll stick a link in the corner if I can find the video. I did enjoy it, but the thing I didn't like about it, I love the looks, but the thing I didn't like about it was the engine. To me, just felt a little bit. I don't know, it didn't feel top quality to me, and I think it was a Chinese built one, but I'm glad to say they've now teamed up with the Yamaha, and they've got a Yamaha twin motor in it now, so this is going to elevate this bike to much greater places. Love to have a go on this one as well, because I think it looks brilliant. Let's read what MCN have said. Fantic have revealed their first modern era twin with a 700cc Scrambler joining their funky Caballero range. It's got a partnership with Yamaha, and the bike uses the same 689cc liquid-cooled Euro 5 engine seen in the MT-07 and R7. Great engine, I would imagine. It'll hit the showrooms in April next year. Okay, it's a parallel twin again. We've already covered that off. But actually, in Scramblers, I think the parallel twin makes sense, particularly in retro-styled Scramblers, and the Caballero sort of is. So this looks lovely. I particularly like the looks of the twin pipes out the back. Lovely looking machine, 74 brake horsepower apparently, which is ample for this type of bike, isn't it? So yeah, looking forward to maybe tapping up my friends down at Crazy Horse and having a ride on this when they've got one available. But yeah, I like the looks of that, and I love the fact that it's got a Yamaha sourced engine in it as well. No excuses to not have a Caballero now. I wonder how much it's going to cost. They reckon about £9,000, claimed 180 kilogram curb weight. Traction control, 3 rider modes, ABS, first time that Fantic have had cornering ABS in fact as well, so well spec bike, like the look of that. And that'll fly off the shelves. Right, letter here. Here we go, talking about, I was moaning about twins earlier. This letter here is from Steve Davis via email. Bring back the fours. Let me read the whole thing to you. Parallel twins, more of them? Yawn. I'm with you, Steve. I don't think I'm alone in noticing all the manufacturers are cost-cutting and chucking out twins for everything from Honda's biggest tourer to tiny first bikes. The British bike industry died because the Jack 4 was far better than any Brit twin. Yet 60 years later, they're all trying to tell me this is the way forward. Really? Says Steve. Well, you're leaning on open door with me, Steve. Nothing against twins, but I also love four-cylinder bikes as well, which actually leads me, I think, to the next story in here, if I'm right. MCN, here we are, get back in line. Is it time to rediscover the charms of an inline four? And MCN here have come up with 3 four-cylinder bikes, a Suzuki GSXS215, which I've ridden, the Honda CB 1000R, which I've also ridden, although the latest review of that isn't up yet, coming in the new year, and the Kawasaki Z900, which I haven't ridden, but I have ridden the Z900 RS, which has the same four-cylinder engine in. I absolutely love all these bikes in terms of their engines. When I rode them, one of the top things that I said that I liked about all these bikes was the fact it was a four-cylinder engine. I love the way they sound. I love the smoothness. Yes, you have to work them, but there's just something nice about them. It might be because I don't own a four-cylinder bike that I love them. I must put that right at some point soon. Right, what was the verdict, though, that MCN said of those bikes? Old school has a place, says John Harry. Honda's CB1000R was a bit of a disappointment. Much to our surprise, the Z, the Kawasaki, proved a great example of what an inline-4 can bring to the party, and Suzuki's GSXS215 is a really solid performer that reminds you how slightly old-school engineering still has a place. I agree. Its inline-4, the GSXS we're talking about here, its inline-4 has a wonderful smash of an instant torque that really suits a super naked, while also containing a fearsome top-end rush. So there we go. It was the GSX-S1000 that they loved most. Great looks, drive and feel of the GSXS engine they liked, the Z's light clutch they enjoyed, and the Honda's classy dash. What they didn't like was the brakes on the GSXS, vibration on the CB and the GSXS blurs the mirrors. I don't like, that's a pet hate of mine actually, and poor suspension on the Z and CB1000R apparently. But yeah, 4-cylinder bikes, they ain't dead yet. Come on manufacturers, let's have more 4-cylinder bikes. I know why they do the twin thing. I know they have to milk their investment in the design of bikes. Let's face it, bikes are much more low volume than cars, so they have to get returns on their investment. I get why economically it makes sense, but just for fun, let's have some more low capacity 4-cylinder bikes. How good would that be? Right, last paper before we get on to parish notices then. First story here, I love this. I just picked this out because this is the top design man at Ducati. He says there's no entry-level Ferrari. This is in response to somebody complaining that they've thinned down the Scrambler range. And if you remember, the Ducati Scrambler range was kind of the entry-level into Ducati. Well, they've thinned it out, and so there are less models available there now, and MCN have been talking to the designer. So anyway, let's read what it says. MCN sat down with firm's head of design, Andrea Ferraresi, great name, at the Milan show, who confirmed that Ducati doesn't plan to make ownership any more affordable anytime soon. I love this, the fact that it's always seen as a premium brand, and they see that as their strength, and they're happy to keep it that way. Following the changes to their range, Ducati's cheapest model now sits with the 9,995 Scrambler Icon, leaving some riders priced out of owning a slice of the Italian brand. When asked if the company would take strides to attract a wider audience in the future with more affordable metal, Ferraresi's added, no, because we want to move the brand up more. We're already a premium brand, and we're already on the top of the premium segment. There is no such thing as an entry-level Ferrari or entry-level Porsche, so you start with other brands and keep in mind Ducati, and then as soon as you can, you buy a Ducati. I love it. I love that approach. Great. Gotta love the Italians, haven't you? So that, I thought that was an amusing story. At least they're honest about it. Nothing wrong with that. Here's a Honda I don't like. Parallel twin Rebel cruiser range grows with the new CMX 1100T bagger model. So this is, do you remember the CMX 1100 Rebel? I think I did ride it. What I don't like about it is the way that they've put the fuel tank atop the frame. It just looks wrong to me. It just looks kind of stubby and just not nice. Well, now, just to add to the not nicest, they've added one of those batwing fairings that I also don't like. So this definitely isn't a bike for me. I accept it's just a personal opinion. I'm sure there are many out there that love it. I'll be interested to hear if you do love it. What am I missing about this? I'm sure it's practical in terms of wind, keeping the wind off you, but I just don't like the looks of it. Anyway, it says here, Honda have added to their CMX 1100 Rebel range with a new touring model complete with luggage and a subtle batwing fairing wrapped around the upright bars. Well, I wouldn't call that particularly subtle. Called the CMX 1100T for touring. The new machine uses the standard 1100 as a base, showing the same diamond chassis, low and accessible 700mm seat height, and Africa twin derived. There we go, again using the same engine. Nothing wrong with it, but just making the point. It's the same 10484cc 8-valve parallel twin engine. There's no pricing for the CMX 1100T yet. By contrast, the Tourer starts at 238 kilogram and then jumps to 248. A lot of weight for a motor producing a little more than 85 brake horsepower. Not quite sure why I've highlighted that there, but anyway, it's saying it's quite a heavy bike as well. Yeah, not for me, that one. We'll see how well it sells. I don't know how well that sells anyway. I know the smaller Rebel, it's the 500, isn't it? It sells pretty well because it's got a very low seat, so appeals to new riders, shorter riders, completely get that. But the CMX 1100T Touring ain't for me. Sorry, Honda. And this is to end on a surprising note. Niken gets more welly. So this is the Yamaha Niken. Do you remember a couple of years ago, this got great coverage because it is Yamaha's two-wheel at the front, one-wheel at the back trike. Really enjoyed riding it. Rides just like a motorcycle, but with loads of grip. But having ridden it when they came out, all the hype, I've never seen one in the wild on the road. And I thought that Yamaha had quietly withdrawn it, but it's not the case. They've updated it. It says here, Yamaha's Niken GT3 wheeler has received updates for 2023, including a more powerful 890cc Euro 5 compliant engine. The inline 3-cylinder engine increases capacity by 5% and sits in a newly designed steel frame to accommodate the engine's increased forward incline. It's got a redesigned intake, new exhaust, new slipper clutch. Tech upgrades include new switchgear and 7-inch TFT display, and a redesigned seat and a new screen. So clearly they are continuing with their investment in the Niken. Interesting. I mean, I'm so glad that Yamaha are willing to, you know, put money in new and interesting new concepts like this. But it hasn't sold very well, has it? Or at least I don't think so, because I haven't seen any on the roads. Have you seen any on the roads? I don't know. Anyway, that's it for the paper review. So let's move on. To parish notices, of course. Okie dokie. So coming up on the channel then, after this bike news, we'll be back to the mega tour, and that'll be carrying on up until Christmas Eve. Actually, that's when the last episode of the current Alaska and Pacific Northwest of the US tour finishes. And don't just think it's Alaska and Canada, even though that's kind of the title of the series, because I've yet to do Montana, Washington, Idaho and Oregon. So if you started the series and you just thought it was all getting a bit samey and you've seen one tree and you've seen them all, actually I think this tour gets better and better as it goes on. So do watch some of those later episodes because there's a lot more to see in those later states. I personally, I mean, I loved Alaska, but I get that it's maybe doesn't make for such interesting videos. But thank you to the about 17,000 of you that have watched every single video. It's I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, they'll be coming to an end at Christmas Eve, and then we'll be back to normal kind of mix of content, bike reviews, biker scran, all that kind of stuff after Christmas. So do not despair. If the tours aren't for you, it is coming to an end. And also on the final edition on Christmas Eve, I will also be, there's like an add-on bit at the end of that video where we talk all about the cost, how much the tour cost, how much we spent on flights, all that kind of thing. So if you're interested, stick around to the very end to watch that. What else to mention? Thanks as ever to my Patreons and members. Without you guys, the channel wouldn't exist. So just always want to say huge thank you to you. I'm very aware that I don't do much for you, but I'm very aware that you are crucial to the survival of the channel. So thank you very much indeed for your continued support. Don't forget, I was just going to say the weather forecast for the next week here in Blighty at least is pretty good. It's winter, it's horrible, it's cold, but it is going to be dry. So do get out on your bikes in the next week and enjoy the dry weather. It might be a little bit foggy around, but you know, the road's not that wet. You're not going to get your bike too cruddy. And anyway, who doesn't love cleaning your bike? So do get out on your bikes, make the most of this good weather. Oh, and can I also be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas? I hope it's not too early to say that, but wanted to get that out there. And don't forget, if you're stuck for Christmas present ideas, then do check out my merch. Things like this shirt, for example, from www.themissendenflyer.com. Loads of stuff there, all the way from sort of keyrings up to hoodies and all sorts of things in between. If you've not checked out my website recently, I would encourage you to do so. Maybe pick yourself up a Christmas present for somebody you love. So that's it for Parish Notices, and that's it for Bike News. Hope you enjoyed that. Looking forward to reading all your comments below as usual, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until next time, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio.